CreationWatch because I have something new for us. I don't think that I've covered In Time Productions before. Maybe I did, though. Regardless if I did cover it, I didn't cover it with what's his name? Tim Alberino, or Timothy Alberino, who we're going to be looking at. All right, so and I did bounce this off the Hive. I went through a few different videos, but I ended up landing on this one because I've been itching to talk about angels for a while now, since I've been doing CryptoCorner and CreationWatch. Either one of those sections would be a great place to talk about angels. Today we're talking about angels in CreationWatch, and we're talking about it with In Time Productions. Timothy Alberino is who we're looking at. This is his channel here. He does collabs with the likes of Bob Lazar and L.A. Marzulli. So he had a video about the Vatican that I couldn't find. It was really annoying me. And I think that it got taken down. They talk about all kinds of wild stuff, transhumanism, Nazi internment camps. And they go deep and hard with UFO and supernatural stuff. But for today, we're going to be seeing what our friend here has to say about angels.
The angels, the sons of God, resemble who we call in ufology the Nordics or the Pleiadians, who are these beings who very much look like us. The misconception is that the fallen angels have a different appearance than the good angels. The bad guys look different than the good guys. The good guys are these beautiful angelic beings, and the fallen angels are these grotesque, demonic-looking entities with horns, and they're the typical Hollywood depictions of demons. But that's ludicrous. That is completely illogical. These entities, these beings, hail from the same race.
Lucifer is an angel, a fallen angel.
My name is Timothy Alberino, and you are watching End Times Productions.
And again, keep in mind that they use that these I don't want to call them ministries, but these different groups pushing these ideas that the media is controlling you with all this stuff. They use a lot of pop media clips from movies and TV shows, the same resources that they claim are attempting to brainwash you.
Earth angel.
Angel?
Yeah, an angel. Made again.
I see the angel of death.
So what you saying? You look at some big black angel got sit down here to snatch your hunky ass out of there at the last possible minute?
The angel called us God's hands.
So we're like superheroes?
Frailty is such a good movie, though. I'm glad to see that because I haven't thought about that movie in years. If you haven't watched Frailty, watch it. It's a mind trip.
Every time that human beings encounter angelic beings within the biblical narrative, the description of the angels is always the same.
Yeah. So just real quick, frailty is to angelic prophesizing as signs as to alien invasion, just to give it some perspective. So it's kind of that, gives it that kind of weirdness.
They look like men. Indeed, Paul says that it's possible to entertain angels unawares, which means that you can confuse them for human beings. They're not human beings. They are, in fact, an extraterrestrial, non-human race, a pre-existent extraterrestrial, non-human race. But
so we're going to get into some, like, what I call Madsonism, which is this idea that the angels and things are alien entities.
They are also sons of God, just like Adam was a son of God. And so it makes sense, therefore, that all the sons in the family bear the same semblance. They look the same, and they resemble their father. And it is my contention that both mankind and the elder race, the human race and the elder race, bear the image of God. There is no scripture in the Bible anywhere that states that mankind is the exclusive bearer of God's image. Rather, it just says that we were made in the image and likeness of the Elohim. And so we look like them because they are our elder siblings. We are.
So The book of Ezekiel. Yeah, but there's different kinds of angels. He is right about, at least in the New Testament and in Lot's story. I think we're going to get into that here in a second, Ring. But yeah, no, I was saying that it's funny that Ring, because me and Ring, I said something in another video about biblically accurate angels looking all wild and weird, and Ring was like, no, if you look at the story of Lot, and you'll note that the angels look very human. So I concur to that. Yeah, the elder race look like white European people. Look like the Ubermensch, blonde hair, blue eyes, tall, fair skinned. Yeah, we're getting into Ubermensch territory. When he says elder race, I can't help but hear Eldar race, and if I know Ring will get that, which is kind of ironic considering the way they're saying, and we're going to get into that here too, that there's this immortal elder race of humanoids. I mean, because yeah, Eldar. I'll let Ring explain it in the side chat, but yeah, basically elves and human, elves and man, humans, angels and humans in our world are the Nordics.
We are reproductively compatible with them, so we are very similar, even physiologically, although they are of a higher nature. And so then the question is, what do they look like? And I think the answer is apparent within the canonized text of Scripture. They look like us, but with some.
What does higher nature mean? I know, I'm assuming they're supposed to be immortal. Okay, that they're supposed to be immortal, and they're supposed to be fairer, like more beautiful. I guess that would mean like softer skin, softer features, larger eyes, things like that are what we consider beautiful. But that's always the description of the Nordic alien. So
some differences, and we know that there has to be some differences because Lot was able to recognize them when they were approaching the city of Sodom. Lot saw two angels approaching and instantly was able to recognize that these were sons of God, emissaries from the kingdom of heaven. Now, how could he have recognized these angels? Because they looked human enough to where they could pass through town and be taken as exotic human beings, but they had distinctive trademarks, hallmarks that were calling cards that they were.
What were these calling cards, I wonder? Are we going to explore that? I can't help but think of the Shoggoth and the Elder. Oh, the Elder Things, yes. The Elder Things and the Shoggoth. Lovecraftian nightmares beyond the mountains of madness. Absolutely. The Elder Things were winged monstrosities. They had kind of like dragonfly wings, and the way they describe them in Beyond the Mountain of Madness is sort of like a giant insectoid creature. But the Shoggoth were something totally different. The Shoggoth were like sentient, well, maybe slime mold is sentient, but sentient slime mold that could be used to build and control the environment. Yeah. Get me talking about Lovecraft, I could go on for days too.
They were not human beings, and that they were indeed angels that Lot recognized these hallmarks. And it also explains why the men of Sodom were so attracted to these exotic men who had entered the city. And I would imagine that these angels, when they entered Sodom, that they probably had cloaks on. Maybe they were covering their heads and you could only see their faces. But from their faces, from what you could discern on their faces, they probably had blue eyes, fair skin, golden blonde hair, white or golden blonde hair.
The good thing about what he's claiming here is that we can actually confirm what he's saying with the biblical narrative, with the actual text itself. So we can actually pull up. It's Genesis 19. Okay, so let's look and see what Genesis 19 says. All right, so the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, "My lords, please turn aside on your my lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way." They said, "No, we will spend the night in the town square." But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him, and entering his house, he made them a feast and baked them unleavened bread, and they ate. Okay, so a couple of cultural things here. The washing the feet thing is this weird Middle Eastern custom. Jesus was like really into it too. It was like the ultimate form of humbling yourself before somebody. So he was worshipful of these guys, sure, and they ate. I think it's super interesting thing about this is that they ate food. So do angels require sustenance? If so, where do they harvest that from? Where do they attain their sustenance from? And if they're like us, if they can breed with us, they must have genomes and DNA. I'd like to see an angel genome. Let's move on though. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, and Matt Powell took young here to mean children, but I think it just means that elderly and youthful people. All the people to the last man surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them." So they want to have an orgy with these sexy angels, I guess. And Lot's not having them. He wants to keep those angels to himself. Okay. Then they called out to Lot. Oh yeah, we were there. Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him. So he stepped out and locked the door or closed the door behind him and said, "I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you and do to them as you please." This is pretty gross, right? Hey, here's my daughters instead. Want to molest them instead of these sexy angel guys that I'm keeping in my house? Because I didn't want you guys to get your hands on them, so I took them in here and I'm washing their feet and feeding them up. I'm romancing them. You all need to back off. You're killing the vibe. Go hang out with my good daughters, right? All right, and only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they said, "Stand back." And they said, "This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them." Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to breaking the door down. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house, and with them and shut the door. So all the people, all the men of Sodom, every one of them fits inside Lot's house. This dude must have a huge mansion. And they struck down with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great. So they wore themselves out groping for the door. So they struck them with blindness. That's is what they did here. Somebody give me what verse it is. 6:9. Where's the verse that talks about the angels being white people with blue eyes? Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here, son-in-law, son, daughters, or anyone who have in the city? Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and said to his son-in-law, is it supposed to be son-in-laws, who were to marry his daughters, Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But he seemed to his son-in-law to be jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in punishment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him. And they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away. And Lot said to them, Oh no, my Lord, behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, the city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved. He said to them, Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive therefore. Therefore, the name of the city is called Zor. Okay, so that's where we are right now. We read through Genesis 19. Timothy said that there was implications that these were white folk with blue eyes. I didn't read that in there at all. So I am doubting you, Timothy.
And oftentimes I get accused of being racist when I describe angels in this way. But what people don't realize is that this is actually the ancient Hebrew perception, conceptualization of what the sons of God look like. When you read the book of Enoch, at the very end of the book of Enoch, there is a fragment inserted into the...
Talking about the book of Enoch, which is extra biblical to most Christian faiths, but there are a few who still include it with their Bible. And it contains little details and snippets of history that were left out of other biblical stories. What he's about to describe here is actually
the story from the book of Noah. Now, whether or not the book of Enoch and the book of Noah are true accounts, they are ancient Hebrew accounts. They are part of the Hebrew cosmology. In other words, they are representative of the way that the Hebrews thought and conceptualized the world. And so in these fragments from the book of Noah, again, found at the end of the book of Enoch, we have this strange story, this account that is being presumably recorded by Enoch, in which Lamech, the father of Noah, is distressed because his wife has just given birth to Noah. And when Noah came out of the womb, he had fair skin. So according to these fragments from the book of Noah, Lamech's wife was pregnant. And when she gave birth to her son, Noah.
And yes, we are going to read this one next. So we are going to read Enoch. So for people who like it when I read Enoch, this is, I think, the second time that I'm doing this. And we're going to read this whole passage.
Lamech was extremely distressed when he saw this baby. Why? Because the baby resembled a son of God, one of the sons of God. And remember, Lamech, when Noah's born, Lamech is familiar with the sons of God, the watchers who created all this havoc, right? So he sees Noah come through the birth canal and pop out, and he looks like one of the sons of God. And so obviously Lamech is concerned because here he has a son that's coming. How can I say this? I almost feel like just reading it. This is what it says. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the...
Oh, okay. He's going to read it, but I'm going to read it myself. I'm going to read it with you guys because there's the whole reason I wanted to do this was so I could have an excuse to read some Enoch, some passages that I enjoy that create a little bit more depth to the biblical narrative. All right, are you ready, guys? This is Enoch 106. I'm reading this directly from the Center for Online Judaic Studies. Enoch 1, fragment of the Book of Noah. And after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and bore him a son. And his body was white as snow and red as a rose. The hair on his head was white as wool, and his dimidia beautiful. And as for his eyes, when he opened them, the whole house glowed like the sun. Rather, the whole house glowed even more exceedingly. And when he arose from the hands of the midwife, he opened his mouth and spoke to the Lord with righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid, or Lamech, sorry, I keep saying his name wrong. Lamech was afraid of him and fled and went to Methuselah, his father. So Noah not only was white with wild eyes, he could also talk. So a lot of people read this fragment of the Book of Noah as a implication that Noah was born albino, which is an interesting case of that being a reason for that to take hold in our genetics, I suppose, is that it was passed down directly from Noah, who wasn't actually an albino, because it does describe him with features that we would know, that we would know as albino traits today. The pink and red, or pink red as a rose. That can be a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna call it a side effect. Anyway, it can be associated with albinism as well as being white, and the head of hair is white as wool. Yeah, everything about this. The eyes, because albino folks that can have really pale eyes, sometimes even pink eyes, really light blue eyes. There's different factors that can come into play, but because there's different degrees of albinism too, and the way that it affects your genes, and we can go deeply into that if you want to. I love studying albinism, but let's see here. Where was I? Okay, he went to Methuselah, his father. Okay. And he said to him, I have begotten a strange son. He is not like any ordinary human being, but he looks like the children of the angels of heaven to me. His form is different, and he is not like us. His eyes are like the rays of the sun, and his face is glorious. It does not seem to me that he is of me, but of angels. I fear that a wondrous phenomenon may take place upon the earth in his days. So I am beseeching you now, begging you in order that you may go to his grandfather, which is Enoch, to our father, and learn from him the truth of his dwelling place is among the angels. Yeah, so it's talking about Enoch being like, because if you're reading the Enoch, he makes angel buddies, and the Watchers is what they call them, but Enoch's a wild ride. Anyway, so when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to us at the end of the earth, for he had heard that I was there. He cried aloud. I heard his voice and came to him. And I said to him, behold, my son, here I am. Why have you come here? And this is Enoch talking. Enoch talking to Methuselah. And I said to him, behold, my son, I am here. Why have you come here? Then he answered me and said, on account of a great distress have I come to you. On account of a grievous vision, I have come near here. Now, my father, hear me, for unto my son Lamech a son has been born, one whose image and form are not like unto the characteristics of human beings. Then his father Lamech became afraid and fled, and he did not believe that he, the child, was of him, but of the image of the angels of heaven. And behold, I have come to you in order that you may make me known the real truth. Whew. Then Enoch answered, saying to him, Lord, the Lord will surely make new things upon the earth, and have already seen the matter in a vision, and made it known to you. For in the generation of Jared, my father, they transgressed the word of the Lord in the law of heaven. And behold, they commit sin and transgress the commandment. They have united themselves with woman to commit sin together with them, and they have married among them and begotten children by them. There shall be a great destruction upon the earth, and there shall be a deluge and great destruction for 1 year. And this son 30, this son 30 who has been, did we just jump to 30 or no? Okay. The son has been born unto you shall be left upon the earth, and his 3 sons shall be saved, and they who are upon the earth are dead. And upon the earth they shall give birth to giants, not of the spirit, but of the flesh. There shall be a great plague upon the earth, and the earth shall be washed clean from all the corruption. Now make known to your son Lamech that the son who has been born is indeed righteous, and call him Noah, for he shall be the remnant for you, and he and his sons shall be saved from corruption, which shall come upon the earth on account of all sins and oppression that exist, and it be fulfilled upon the earth in his days. After that there shall occur a greater oppression than that which is fulfilled upon earth the first time. For I do know the mysteries of the holy ones, for he is the Lord. He revealed them to me and made me know, and I have read them in the heavenly tablets. The Ethiopic word for long walks is what, when it was describing Noah as a baby, this word, where'd it go? Yeah, the Dimdima, which means long walks. So Noah was born with long hair. And yeah. So that's Enoch 106. I think our boy is about to read it too again, so you probably have to listen at least part of it again. But we're going to hear his interpretation of it now that we've heard it ourselves, and see if his interpretation matches up with what the text actually says. So here we go.
The ancient nations. Should I just read this? Okay, yeah, this will just make, because I think this is an important point. So this is the account from the book of Noah, the fragments of the book of Noah inserted into the book of Enoch. And after some days, my son Methuselah, this is presumably Enoch writing, and after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him, and bore him a son. And his body was white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose. And the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes were beautiful, probably meaning that they were distinct from other men's eyes. In other words, they were probably blue or green or something like that.
Or pink. Or silver. Some of the colors that are common among albinos are blue and grays and even pink. Pink is really rare in human eyes, though. When it comes to albinism, it's common in other organisms, but in humans, it's usually a blue.
And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife, opened his mouth, and conversed with the Lord of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. And he said unto him, I have begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man, and resembling the sons of God. And his nature is different, and he is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious.
Yeah, he's a little albino baby born born in the ancient Near East, among the tawny-skinned folks that lived in the region. He probably did look quite glorious.
And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels. And I fear that in his days a wonder may be brought on the earth. So whether or not this story is true, is literally true, and it may not be, it still gives us insight into how the ancient Hebrews
I do feel bad for Noah being out in the sun building that ark, though, if he was albino. Could you imagine? Yeah, they said he was red as a rose. I bet he was red as a blooming rose after building that ark for all those years. It was a century or decades, right? They spent in the sun building the ark with this poor albino skin baking under the sun, unless they only built the ark at night. Maybe that's why it took so long. Because Noah could only work at night when the sun wasn't there to burn him.
conceptualized the sons of God. How do they conceptualize the sons of God? Fair skin, bright, probably blue or green eyes or clear eyes, white or blonde hair, basically like Scandinavians. And I contend that this angelic race is probably 6.5 to 7 feet tall because of some other indications elsewhere in extra-biblical texts. And
some other indications elsewhere. So yeah, the angelic beings, the offspring of the angelic beings weren't all pretty like Noah, though. It's kind of funny that Noah was apparently a Nephilim too, within the narrative itself, because the offspring of the sons of God, which are the angels, in the wives of man, were the Nephilim, and the Nephilim generally are considered giants and even monsters. But the flood was God's wrath to destroy not just the sinful people, but also these monstrous offsprings of, at least in some of the narratives, in some belief systems, to destroy the offspring of the angels and women. So it's ironic that now we're saying, but Noah was one of these beings. So, yeah.
And so this is why I say that the angels, the sons of God, resemble what we call in ufology, the Nordics or the Pleiadians, who are these beings who very much look like us, but their physiology have these very same descriptive qualities. They are fair skinned, they're tall, 6.5, 7 feet tall. They have blonde or golden blonde hair. They have bright.
Where are you getting the height at for the angels, though? I don't what verses describe, and you said extra biblical text. What text, which is fine. What extra biblical text are we looking at? I still have the COJS pulled up here, so I got all the extra biblical text at my fingertips. If you mention which ones say that the angels were between 6 and 7 feet tall, I'll go look at it. There is the indication that Goliath, who fought Noah, was a descendant of the Nephilim, or a Nephilim himself, one or the other, which would, potentially he would have to be a descendant of Noah, though. So wouldn't we all be descendant from Nephilim? Unless they're saying that, hey, some of these Nephilim survived that flood that was a year-long flood, and produced beings like Goliath.
Blue eyes or bright green eyes. This is not a commentary on race or something like that. This is simply referencing the ancient
Really? Because it sounds like you're saying that the whiter you are, the taller you are, the more you resemble the Ubermesh, with your blonde hair and blue eyes, being tall and fair skinned, the more angelic you are. So while you keep saying, oh, I'm not trying to be racist, it does sound very much like you're saying, hey, white people are the most angelic people.
Hebrew conceptualization of the sons of God. The members of the elder race are represented by both the good guys and the bad guys. There's this misconception among Christians that there's good angels and bad angels. There's the good angels who are still loyal to the Father, and then there's the quote-unquote fallen angels. And the term fallen angel is a bit of a contrivance. It's not actually a biblical term. We all understand what's meant by it. The angels that rebelled and are in a state of insurrection. They're reprobates. They have become the enemies of God, the enemies of the King and of the kingdom of heaven. These are the fallen angels. the misconception is that the fallen angels have a different appearance than the good angels. The bad guys look different.
Wouldn't they
than
have
the
a different countenance? Wouldn't God mark them in some way to make it clear that they were not of his allegiance anymore?
good guys. The good guys are these beautiful angelic beings, much like the description here from the fragments of Noah. And the fallen angels are these grotesque, demonic-looking entities with horns, and they're the typical Hollywood depictions of demons. But that's ludicrous. That is completely illogical.
I actually love the Hollywood depiction of demons. I really like. Does anybody here watch Evil? I like the way they depict George in Evil. I think that's my favorite way to depict a demon.
Entities, these beings, hail from the same race. They're the same race. They probably speak the same language. They have the same knowledge. They most likely are operating the same technology, the same technological implements. Why wouldn't they be? They're from the same race. The fallen angels were at one time good angels.
Right. This is again. I hate to keep bringing this back to Tolkien, but it's like the difference between the what is it? The Talari and the what's Thingol's people called after that? They split. Thingol was the king of the Talari, and then he stayed behind, and he was he was a dark elf thereafter. But thanks to the light of Melanian, he was able to retain a little piece of valor with him. But they did get physiologically distinct, though. And why would do the angels reproduce? It sounds like they do because they lust after women and such. Do they lie? Do they have a life, or do they reproduce ad infinitum? Because eventually the world's going to overflow with angels.
Non-fallen angels, if you will. They were loyal to the king until they were disloyal. So they come from the same culture. And I think that word is very appropriate when we talk about the kingdom of heaven. It is a kingdom. It's not this ethereal spiritual concept. It has locality. It is in every way very much like what we are familiar with as it pertains to civilization and culture and society. It has...
Hey, blessed be he. His fire can create and destroy. You choose. If you do not have his fire inside you, you are fallen. What is his fire? Can you? I'm into it. I'm into it. Bring it. Can you elaborate on what his fire is? I will respond if you can elaborate on that.
A court. It has a judicial system. It has a standing army. Angels eat and drink. The Israelites ate the bread of heaven. In Psalms, it says that they ate the grain of heaven, the sustenance of the angels.
So there's farms in heaven too. So you have to do farm labor in heaven? That sucks so bad. How's that heaven? If there's what happens to an angel if it doesn't eat? They can't die. They're immortal, right? Do we have to eat in heaven? Do humans have to eat in heaven? They have to sustain their heavenly body?
So how do you get grain? You harvest wheat. So I think that we are entitled to make these logical extrapolations. If the Israelites are eating the grain of heaven, that means that that grain was processed from some kind of wheat. I think we can go so far as to say some kind of extraterrestrial wheat that was harvested.
Alien wheat. We are here. We've come full circle. We finally have the answer. Angels come from an alien planet. They are aliens, and they have wheat. They farm on the alien planet. Heaven, there are farms on heaven.
On somewhere else in the cosmos. So it's a civilization, and they have all the implements of a civilization. And in fact, their civilization, the civilization of the elder race, is the prototype of ours. It pre-exists ours. Our civilization is a shadow of theirs. In other words...
And where is their civilization? Where is heaven? I'm a bit rusty on the lineage of the Elaterum, but before they departed to Valinor, though, if I recall correctly, the elves of the Mirkwood are descendants from those who never left. Yeah, the Mirkwood. I'm talking about Thingol's kingdom in Beleriand, where it was sunken. Within the girdle of Melian, there was they were counted among the high elves in that region, even though they weren't in. The only one who had actually been to Valinor was King Thingol himself, and Queen Melian was from there. But he came back and stayed in Middle Earth with part of his people. The Beleriand elves had never seen the light of the trees either.
Words, our institutions are based on the institutions that pre-existed us. Angels, the kingdom of heaven has a standing army. And this is apparent all over.
A standing army and farms, and it's like a civilization. Heaven's starting to sound less cool now. When you didn't have to eat and you just had all the pleasures of the world at your fingertips. Again, food is one of my greatest pleasures. So I don't know how. I guess you could eat to your heart's content and never gain weight, or not eat at all if you don't want to in heaven. But it sounds like because there's farming going on, that there's actually industry in heaven, which raises all kinds of wild questions. Growing wheat on Mars, like the Martian. What did he grow on Mars? I can't remember.
The Old Testament and the New Testament. In fact, one of the most common names, titles of the God of Israel is the Lord of Armies, the Lord of Hosts. And that word host it's a militaristic term, the Lord of Armies.
That's not, the host isn't necessarily militaristic. Is there a host is your people? When you talk about these ancient cultures, basically like the tribal societies with an elder leading them, and that the leader would call the people his people, the host of, if his name, like I say, his name was Bree. Let's say his name was David. Yeah, because we're talking about the people of Judea would be the host of David. It wouldn't just be the army. It can mean the army, like if they were going into battle and they saw David approaching with his army, they would say David approaches with his host. But it doesn't necessarily mean that host has to be militaristic. At least not the way I understand it, because the host is also when a group of people migrate, like the way the Israelites allegedly migrated out of Egypt. That would have been like the host of Moses, right?
Why do armies exist? To protect the borders of a sovereign realm. Armies don't exist without a civilization.
To be continued.
The conversation you heard today, the content of this conversation is detailed in my book, Birthright.
Oh, you don't get this show on my channel. Sorry. If you are interested, though, his channel's right here. I'm not going to keep that a secret or anything. I mean, if you're interested in what this guy has to say, if you thought this was compelling for some reason, Timothy Alberino, this goes quite down the rabbit hole with things that are debunked. There's L.A. Marzulli. There's our guy L.A. We've talked about him a couple of times. Ooh, the Great Reset. That's too long though. Look how long that is. Look how long that is. I wish it was shorter. There were shorter parts to it. Might be something to cover some evening when I'm bored, though. We'll see. Yeah. So are you converting to extraterrestrial with ancient alienism, Big Bad Mama? Civilizations produce soldiers, not the other way around. soldiers produce them. Well, horny soldiers do when they get back home to their home front. They tend to come back and create more civilization. Neither, but as commander of the army of Yahweh, I have now come, Joshua, host in the KJV. Okay. Okay, so that was Creation Watch. If you're watching this on Monday, or no, not Monday. Creation Watch is on Wednesday. Watch Wednesday, yeah. So if you're watching this on Wednesday, thank you for coming and hanging out with us. And yeah, you like seeing apologetics and biblical text interpreted in non-conventional ways. We do that a lot around here. Young Earth, Flat Earth, Ancient Alien Earth. Anytime that you can take a religious text and flip its genesis on its head to create a fantastic origin stories, you can bet your ass that we're going to cover it here on Creation Watch. So yeah, if you are here on that ticket, thank you for dropping in. Please remember to be kind and take care, and we will see you either Friday for Cryptic Corner or next Wednesday for more Creation Watch, or back here again on Saturday for Live from the Hive.